she is still in medicine. But our next guest crossed from one career
to another.
From counting money to counting something else. Or rather, calculating numbers to something else. We'll find out what in a moment. No, please, I don't want to sing my version of this song in public.
Don't sing.
Ah.
Sing after.
Because
maybe you can sing us out.
No. They have to play this song for me to sing it. But so we saw a couple of trailers earlier.
Yes, the Ololade.
Yes, we saw that of Ololade, and then we're looking at one from Dani TV as well. We'll hear more of all of that. So who are we speaking with?
So we're speaking with
our artist of the week.
Our artist of the week, and that's Lani Aisida, who, as Ayo said before we went on break, went from one profession of counting. Is it counting?
He went from numbers to narratives. He wrote it himself, actually.
Right. A chartered accountant turned screenwriter, producer, and showrunner, recognized in 2024 among the 100 most influential individuals shaping Nollywood. He's the writer of the cinema blockbuster The Herd and the head writer of Netflix Yoruba original series Ololade. His feature film script, Just Not Married, was selected for the Toronto International Film Festival in 2016, and so much more.
And then there's this very famous one, Skinny Girl in Transit.
Okay.
I didn't even know that he had a hand in that one. How a man can be writing Skinny Girl. Anyway, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Aisida.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. When you write, this is what you call screenwriting?
Yes, screenwriting.
When you write for the screen, and you now see your writing being acted out, how does it feel?
Fulfilling. You know, just the idea that some of the things that you create, I create, didn't exist in this world. And then you go on set, you see actors rehearsing these lines, trying to get it right. You see everybody setting up, all the key players, directors, gaffers, and then it comes on screen, and then people watch it, enjoy it, comment, and then sometimes you just sit back and think, all of this was in my head. It didn't exist before I thought about it, before I wrote it. It's humbling and fulfilling.
Right, and how do you, sorry, I mean, are you there when it's being directed or played out? Do you sometimes think, oh no, this is not how I wanted this interpreted? You know, are they always the scenes, are they interpreted as you imagined it when you were writing in the first place?
No. But when writers say that, it always sounds like a negative thing, but it's not necessarily. Sometimes it's positive. In that, I believe that the pipeline before it gets to the consumer, the viewers, is a pipeline of creatives. So I've written this thing from my office or my bedroom, whatever the case may be, and then another creative comes on board, maybe the actor, and says, "Oh, I think this would add a layer to this," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, why not? I didn't think about it." So basically, the director then comes with his perspective. You know, sometimes one of the crew members is like, "Oh, I know someone that this happens to," and I'm like, "Oh, it would be nice if they say this." So I believe what I create is the foundation,
right? And
then everybody builds on it, and then I believe that's where true magic comes from.
So now let's go back to your counting numbers.
We're still counting numbers, but...
well, you are still counting numbers. I understand that, that one. So how did you move from accounting or accountancy to this? Because you cannot be creative in accounting unless you want to steal money. So how did it start for you?
The passion has always been there to do something creative. I had always believed that I would be in the music space and end up as a songwriter. of some sort. But then I was doing my job. I was working as a financial analyst in a particular company, well-known company. And then one day I went to a client who so happened to be a filmmaker, and then basically we were meant to do his books, but we ended up talking more about film than the books. And then I sent him I told him about a show that I was thinking of, and I thought nothing of it. And then 2-3 days later, he sends me a deck. I don't know what this is, but he sends it to me and says, oh, I should write the show. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll write it anyway. And then I wrote it, and as they say, the rest is history. And then I remember wanting to leave my job because my boss at the time and my mom, who is an accountant and had hoped I'll take over the firm, wanted me to stay in the job and thought there was a way I could balance both. But then I just had this dream of, I want to be at the pinnacle of this career. There are people at the pinnacle of this career already who are improving. If I'm not fully committed, then I probably wouldn't get to their level, because it's like, yeah, basically, they're already way ahead of me, and I want to get there, so I have to move faster than them, and I can't move faster while I'm double tasking. And a lot of times it's stressful, because then what I would do is I'll use a lot of my brain during the day for numbers, and then trying to switch
to narratives
was difficult. And then I remember in the office at the time, because my office laptop, I couldn't download a writing software on it, right? So I'll have two laptops on my table, and a lot of people were like, oh, this guy he's a genius, like doing the numbers and looking at the stocks in different markets, but one was for writing, one was for office work. But yeah, so here we are.
So how did mommy receive you saying, don't worry, you're already tired?
He says it all right. What I would say is at some point she cried, and it's never easy seeing a lady or your mother cry. But so it wasn't easy, but it was, again, it's from a place of love, because this is something that she didn't understand. I didn't understand it fully, but how can you say you can earn a living from writing scripts? You're not even the one making the film. Like, do you understand? You're just writing, and someone will pay you X amount of money. So what I did at the time as well was, I like to think that, okay, if I had gone to a bank and said, I want to write, would they loan me money? Is that a bankable thing? So I created a business model to sort of, because I had doubts myself. So I created a business model to say, okay, what is the plan? So yeah, my mom didn't take it well initially, but I think she was humble enough as well, because, which was one of the most touching parts for me, was at some point, 2 years down the line, she sent me a message randomly and said, oh, I'm sorry for holding you back. That, wow. Yeah, so it's just a place of understanding. And the truth is that as parents, myself now, there'll probably be careers that my kids will want to do that I don't understand, because it's a different world entirely. And then I might struggle with letting them go on that path. But it's trust your kids sometimes.
Trust.
Interesting. Because I don't even know, Okay, now, let's get into your head about a few of the things that you wrote. Right. By the way, I'm going to report you to my wife. Right. Because you stopped her from working anytime or doing anything else, anytime she was watching Skinny Girl in Transit. Right. What was at the back of your mind when you were either writing or leading the team who wrote that series? Okay, so for Skinny Girl in Transit, that's an Indani TV show. Okay. And it was created by, so I think so far it's about 7 seasons in. The people that created it and wrote it were different from season 1 to 4. Oh. So I joined the team when there was a buzz around it already. Oh. I joined from season 5 and 6. Yeah, so I wrote season 5 and 6 only. Okay. Yes. So what does it take? What was in your head? So in my head, so I'll be honest with you, Skinny Girl in Transit is one of the difficult ones to even write. And reason being that there's a huge love for the show already. And then you come on board and you're like, oh, I hope I don't ruin it. So for me, it was from that perspective, like, oh, the people that created the show,
have created this magic, have created, as in, gotten the whole nation and beyond on this. So it's basically staying true to the characters, expanding the world bit by bit. The season I joined was the season where the key characters were going to get married. For me, I believe that fiction is the life through which we tell the truth. So we try to put a bit of some marriage nuggets in there so that people can walk away with those tips. And I remember, because it's on YouTube, you get live commentary. I remember reading some comments where people were saying, oh, they would have their notepads as they were watching, you know. So it's but it's, I believe it's one of the biggest IPs created. So big props to the creators. Temi B, if I'm correct.
Okay. Right, and then, you know, tell us more about the other aspects of your work. That's where you're not, you know, working for people or doing things for people, but doing for yourself, like the African Stories Untold. You know, we always say it's time for Africa. You know, we started from Nigeria to tell its own stories. You know, there are those stories that are told that even Africans tell and that are out there. But there are those stories, I like how you capture it, those untold stories that you want to get out there to say, okay, this is what is happening here. And these things are happening in Africa. Possibly not just negative, but like beautiful stories that people don't know about, that you think that should. How did you begin that project?
So that's the name of my company. And so it's an interesting question, because the reason we phrased that, the name of the company was my first project. So my wife gave birth to our first baby or child, 2020, right? So 2020, best of my knowledge, my friends give birth. I go there 7 days, eat food, and go. As in, like, oh, there's nothing, there's like everyday normal, right? But then my wife, and then we have complications, and I'm confused, like, hold up, there are not meant to be complications, what's happening? You know, and then, but then I'm such an, because we have a culture of secrecy, and but I'm an open person. I call one of my friends and they're like, oh, this one's not a problem now. When my wife gave birth, And I'm like, hold up, how didn't you tell me all of this? I was in your house eating rice. Do you understand? And then it was consistent. And then we went through that and I said, okay, you know what? I want people to talk about this. So we then created the company African Stories Untold. And that was, our first project was my birthing experience. So it was just basically men and women, mostly women, facing the camera and just talking about their experiences. You know, and what it then do, because I feel that what it then does is the women after would realize that their situation, they're not alone in their situation. Sometimes you hear women thinking, oh, their body failed them, as though, oh, they were the only ones that were going through this. But other people have gone through it, but are just not talking about it.
Yes, because I have a, sorry to butt in, I have a friend that's, you know, just had a baby. And, you know, I knew because it was, I just knew how she had the baby. And then I had the urge to say, you know, usually we say, how is the baby? But then I refrained from asking her, how is the baby? Because I was guessing that the baby possibly was okay. But say, how are you?
Yes.
How are you doing?
Yes.
Because we often fail to ask the mother how they're doing. We just ask after the frail baby, you know.
The mother is not frail.
The mother, you know, but the mother is going through. So those are parts of the stories.
Exactly the stories. And then we eventually got to tell stories from Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa. And you realize that you can sort of like draw like a line of the African culture through the medium of birth. As in basically how certain things happen and how we are different and how we can be better. You know, some of those things, and then we expanded on that. It's not an African story untold production, but then most recently, The Herd. That's a story that is our story, you know, but how can we put it on this platform so that people are aware? You know, just because sometimes we are desensitized from it, we hear the numbers every day.
Yeah. The Herd is a fairly misunderstood story.
Yes.
You right?
It depends. Yes. Yes.
Yes. You know, because people are like, I know we should not be promoting things like this. We should not be promoting such negativity about our country and all of that. Tell us what the mindset is. I have seen it, and it's very gripping. So tell us, first of all, what was the orientation? What was going through your mind as you wrote?
So for me, I'm always aware of what the medium is. The medium is cinema, film. So first of all, we have to entertain. It has to be gripping, right? But then it also, for me, it also has to inform, because like I said, fiction is the light through which we tell the truth, and also we are deeper voices for unheard voices across. So we are more than entertaining. So I remember being in church one day at the crossover service, and someone came and talked about his story where he had been kidnapped by bandits on one of the major highways. And basically they paid a ransom and he came out. But the way he told the story was, he didn't say a lot. It was almost like he was on a place where he should feel safe, the altar of God. He's a Christian, obviously, but he was still scared. So I could tell that there was something lingering within and a lot that was unsaid. So I just figured, this unsaid, I want to tell it. It connected with me. If I always look for stories near us that we haven't told. Like, if I feel this way, then hopefully if I present it in the right format, with my right skill set for TV, then maybe more people will talk about it and understand it beyond numbers, right? So that's basically what we try to do with The Herd. But also, again, all stories are sensitive, but this is extra sensitive. It was also ensuring that there were enough consultations to ensure that we are telling it in in the best factual way that we can, so that some elements wouldn't be used to discredit the truth or what we perceive to be the truth. So there was a lot of research that went into it. Talked to security officials. We spoke to one or two people that have encountered those things. And I remember being at the premiere with Daniel directed and produced it. And someone came to me, and when she was at the premiere, she was crying all through. And she was like, oh, someone had just gone through this last week. So it's that fine balance, and I believe that those are some of the stories one tell, not always as dark, like you said. They're happy stories about us, We are beyond... certain people have a perception of Africa and what they see, especially when we're telling global stories. But guess what? This is Africa. This nice set is Africa.
And it's as real as can be, because I remember when The Herd came out. I watched it beginning to end, I must say.
Thank you.
And, but I have some colleagues that said it just couldn't continue. And the reason being, not that because the production was not good, but it was too real, and it's brought out too many emotions of the reality of the issues that the story was talking about, and that they just couldn't imagine watching more because it was, but if you've watched a bit, you might as well have watched the entire, because we know about stories of kidnapping and abductions and ransom paying and, people being kept against their will by terrorists and all those kind of things. And then it also showed the infighting of the kidnappers, the bandits themselves. It cut across a lot of things. So once you just hear, the first part of it, I didn't know what it was about until I watched the first kidnapping, and I knew, okay, it's about abductions. So, so it's as real as that. Yes. They might as well have watched everything. That's how real it was, and that's how magical the storytelling and the writing, how real it was for everybody, I believe.
One thing that I would now ask is, there are many untold African stories.
Yes.
And there are those who believe that the only way we can put Africa out is to tell our stories ourselves. Some people have expressed disappointment that the Woman King was led by an American cast and all of that. What does it cost, and I'm not just talking about money, to tell our stories? One of the challenges a number of people have talked about is we don't even have a bank of information to to extract from. So what will it cost for us to begin to tell the authentic African stories as we wind up?
Money is an issue, but it's not the only issue. But I like what you just said about information. So I believe that, one, access, and then, okay, I think the first thing is awareness. If you're writing, and I'm speaking mostly as a writer now, in the chain of creatives, if you're writing from a place of survival, it's hard for you to say, oh, I want to tell this story, because those things take longer to germinate before you reap the rewards financially. It's hard, so it's easier for you to do the ones that write things that are easier to sell.
Yeah.
Right, less research and less of that, you know. So, oh, if I write this in 2 weeks, bang, turn around and I write 2 more in a month. So first of all, but it's the awareness of the writer to understand their role in society. I believe that if our environment will change significantly, writers would have to be on the table, because we are going into homes and we are influencers, right, to contribute to changing of mindsets through entertainment, right? So there's that awareness on one side, but then it's also improving your craft, because if, for instance, The Herd wasn't entertaining and it was just filled with facts, it might not have this kind of success. It would be better as a documentary.
Absolutely.
So it's understanding, knowing that, yes, you have this important information to pass across, but how do you weave it in entertainment? It's not an easy skill. So it's basically writers improving their skill, being aware of their role to, yes, not only entertain, but then the craftsmanship of weaving that information into entertainment, so that the first thing, if you put on the TV, you want to be entertained. That's the honest truth. But then afterwards, you're having that conversation on the couch with your partner, your wife, your husband, and then the conversation lingers on, like The Herd, it lingers on social media. So I believe those are two things that we can...
It's a lot to grapple with. The least we can say right now is that we expect more from you as the days unfold, because already your CV is full. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Lani Aishida is a professional, former chartered accountant,
still chatters.
Chartered screenwriter, chartered producer, showrunner. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and thank you for being our guest on the Artist of the Week. And that's the show today. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your Saturday morning. Don't worry, it's not 12 o'clock yet. Amaya Makinde, enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend.
Yes, and I'm Jackie Rogers. See you next week.